Hey everybody, I'm Katrina from NCAT We Trust, and I am back with another fabulous interview with another fabulous guest. And today I have with me Journey Burke. How are you today?
I'm well, Katrina. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you for coming on. And so you caught my eye because your I guess tagline is lawyer turned wrestler, and law was something I wanted to do a long time ago, and it didn't really work out that way. I wound up doing other stuff, but
I-
how I guess first, what was the initial moment where you knew you wanted to kind of get into wrestling?
So I actually started watching wrestling in 2020. So I was a late bloomer, I guess, in the wrestling world. I had initially just started watching, WWE, and I just immediately fell in love with it. I became obsessed, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my whole life." I thought I was definitely one of those people who was like, "Ah, wrestling's fake. Why do people watch it?" Blah blah blah. So like, I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. We'll see how it goes. If I don't like it, I don't like it. Turns out I loved it. But then as I started watching more and more, I learned more about the indies. And in particular, when I started watching AEW, that was when I really like sparked my interest in terms of becoming a wrestler. Thunder Rosa is my favorite wrestler in the whole wide world. So I had listened to a bunch of like interviews of her, podcasts of her, and she started I guess when she was 27. I started when I was 26. So I initially thought, I'm too old to do this. I couldn't possibly start doing any of this. But hearing her story, I was very inspired. And I was like, you know what? Why not? Like I was, I also have a cheerleading background. So some of the athletic stuff, I was like, that'll be fun to see if I can't still do some of that stuff. um, Spoiler alert, I can't, but we're working on it. So, um, but yeah, like I just loved Thunder. I heard her story, and it was really inspiring to know that like you can start at any age. And then when she and Britt Baker had the feud on AEW, I was just like, I'm sold. Like I have no choice. I have to do this. So that's when I kind of really started looking for wrestling schools and being really serious about it. And a couple months after that, I signed up for my first class, and the rest is kind of history. I had never had more fun than in that first wrestling class in my whole entire life. So I knew that's where I needed to be.
Okay, and what school did you wind up settling with as far as getting your training in?
So my first school was at the Wrestle Factory in Philadelphia. So there was, of course, a long line of wrestlers that came out of there. I was trained by Sonny DeFarge there, and Sonny's awesome. I don't know where I'd be without him. And then after that, kind of, I was still at the Wrestle Factory, but I was lucky enough to be able to train at a lot of different places. So after, about I would say like 8 months after I started training, I was able to start training with Speedball Mike Bailey, just outside of Reading, PA, just in a random abandoned warehouse that like was in the middle of nowhere, which was very, very cool. Um, and then I started training at the Worldwide Dojo in Philly, so that's where I go now. And occasionally I'll go to Three Legacies Wrestling in Lancaster. So there's no shortage of schools that I have gone to at this point, but they are all awesome in their own right. So it's really nice to be able to get those opportunities to be able to train at so many different places.
Awesome. Yeah, Mike Speedball is super awesome. I think he's a fantastic wrestler. And so I'm sure you learned so many awesome things from training with him.
Yeah. There are some days where I'm just like I didn't grasp the concept at the time. And like I'll be thinking about a match and then I remember something that he said in training and I'm like, that's what he meant. Like he just knows so much about wrestling and his brain works so well in terms of, how wrestling works that like it's really hard to keep up, but like once you get it, it's just, it opens your eyes to an entirely new way of thinking about a match or a move or, anything in terms of
Yeah.
wrestling. So it was absolutely insane and still, lucky that I get to keep in contact with him and stuff like that. So it's very, very cool.
Awesome. And so how do you balance wrestling with the lawyer life? Because I know lawyers can be a bit time consuming working in the law field. And so how do you balance that and then also balance wrestling?
I don't. There is no balance. I mean, on the whole, I think everything balances out as well as it can, but there are some weeks where wrestling takes priority and there are some weeks when work takes priority. I generally work, 9 to 5, typical 9 to 5 job. And then training, I actually have to drive about 2 hours to get to training. So that, cuts into time a little bit. So if I have a lot of work to do, I can't really leave work early to go to training. So I'll stay at work and sacrifice training that week. Or, if there's a show that's on a Friday and I can't get to it because I can't leave work as early as I need to, sometimes those sacrifices are made. Excuse me. But overall, like it generally does balance out, but it's kind of just whatever my priority is that week. So there's a lot of time spent on Sundays, like meal prepping, making sure I don't have to make food during the week so that I can, have my basic human needs met. And then just, being able to, I mean, luckily my job, I do have a little bit of flexibility in terms of when I work. So I can leave early if I don't have a lot of stuff to do, but obviously the thing that pays the bills will take priority. We'll say it that way.
Okay. And what I guess what facet of law, because there's different types of law that people work in for different types of things. And so where will you fit in on that scale?
So what I do is commercial civil litigation. It is probably just as boring as it sounds. I do a lot of writing and researching, but primarily that just means that I go to court a lot. Anything that you might think of that's typical in like a civil side of court is, business contract disputes. I actually do a lot of eminent domain law. So like if the government's coming in and taking your property. And then I also do guardianships for adults who are deemed incapacitated under the law. So somebody needs to be appointed by the court to make decisions for them. Those are like my big areas, but there's a lot of, little things sprinkled in there as well in terms of like, sometimes it's a dispute between business owners. Sometimes it's, a land dispute. I don't do too much property law, but generally just anytime a business gets sued, they'll come to us and say, help us. So it's pretty much just that, but it's challenging work for sure. It's like I said, a lot of research and writing, but it pays the bills and it keeps my mind occupied on something that's not wrestling.
I like it. I like it. And so you said you started watching wrestling in 2020, and that was at least WWE, the Thunderdome era. I don't know. So, what
Yes,
were your
yes.
thoughts about that era? As far as them trying to keep people entertained before they head back into when things started opening back up, and people was able to kind of go to shows again. What were your thoughts on that? Because you started, I guess, a little differently for most of us, where we kind of watched it before that happened. So, what were your thoughts about that era, as far as like when everything opened up, kind of being like, oh, okay, this is what it is.
Yeah. So I watched in January 2020, so I got a little bit of like the crowds and whatnot, but I had never been to a show, never like nothing like that at all. So like seeing the crowd was really exciting. And then when I went to the Thunderdome, I actually like in the Thunderdome era, I kind of forgot what it was like to have crowds at a wrestling show. Because I was, like you said, I wasn't really used to the big crowds and seeing all of that. And so I had started like watching older episodes of Raw and SmackDown and older pay-per-views. So it was just crazy to me to see all those people in the older episodes of like just losing their minds, like having such a good time. And like I thought the Thunderdome idea was great because honestly, I didn't have anything else to watch at that time either. So having something that I could turn to at the end of the week and be like, all right, this is my 2 hours that I just chill. I'm not thinking about everything else that's going on in the world. And it was really nice to have that break from reality. And I think that's what a lot of wrestling fans will say is that it does give you a nice break from reality. And even in the Thunderdome era, I think I missed the crowds, but I didn't know how much I missed them until they came back for sure. And I think it was just nice to have that break and great that they continued to do it for the entertainment purposes on the worker side, I don't know much about it and how they all felt about having to continue to go to work in those conditions, but
Yeah.
it was nice from the entertainment side for sure.
Okay. So you mentioned you did some cheerleading. So, and you said it wasn't as, I guess, easy getting into the wrestling aspect. So how hard or difficult was it transitioning into doing the training parts to prepare for this?
Um, so there's a lot of different things. I think there's like a lot of different boxes that I could put it in, because a lot of the athletic stuff, like you start with rolls, you start with jumping, you start with in some classes you'll do cartwheels. So like all of the, more acrobatic things I had, could pick up pretty quickly because I had done them, prior. But it was more like the mental block that was really, really difficult in terms of training. That I couldn't really get. I had a big mental block issue in cheerleading, and I had the same thing when I went into wrestling. So, anytime I got scared to do a new move or, scared to do a new skill, it was just like, oh gosh, I'm stuck here. How do I do this? How do I get over this? And just like in cheerleading, it was always the coaches that were able to coach you through it and make you understand why the move is safe, why you have the ability to do the move, why it works, like all that stuff. So I think something that maybe a lot of people higher up in the wrestling industry talk about a lot is like being able to be coached. Um, and that is something that I think translated really well from cheerleading into wrestling, because, I had learned how to work with a team, how to be
Yeah.
coached in terms of, the ability to do all these athletic things and working with another person with literally your life in their life in your hands and your life in their hands sometimes. So understanding the severity of that from cheerleading as well was very good to translate into wrestling. So I think, like I said, the acrobatics was one small part of it, but I think being able to be coached, and understanding how to overcome a mental block, those were both really, really good skills that I think carried over from cheerleading to help me in my wrestling training for sure.
Okay. So who are some, I know you've had a few matches I've seen. I know you had a match with Christine Marie, and I know
Mhm.
who she is as well. And so who are some women, or even if you want to do intergender wrestling, but who are some people you would like to kind of step into the ring with in the future?
Oh my gosh, I think about this all the time. Like, I mean, we're gonna highlight the women today because I could wrestle any dude anytime. I'll take him on. Doesn't matter. But I think the biggest one on my mind right now is Becca, because I just watched her match with Shannon Lezangi at Wrestling Open, and it was insane. Like they are so good. So I'd love to wrestle Becca. And these are kind of, down the road, not anytime soon, dream matches. And then I have my like completely outlandish dream matches, which I'll mention in a minute. But definitely Becca. Billy Starks is another one, because she's just absolutely insane, and like I just love seeing all these talented female wrestlers that are just absolutely crushing it, and to be a small part of that would be so exciting. Um, and then, I mean, I'd like to wrestle all my friends that I train with. Like, I'll wrestle Harley Lopez up and down the East Coast every day. Like, we've already wrestled a couple times, but, and I think for my crazy, will it ever happen someday? Obviously, I'd love to wrestle Thunder Rosa because she was my inspiration for getting into wrestling. Mercedes Monet is another big inspiration for me. So if I could ever wrestle her in any world, any universe, I would do it. And I think another dream match would, of course, be Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, because I think our character storylines would be a lot of fun. And again, she was another inspiration because of the Dr. Britt and Thunder Rosa feud, which got me here. So I think those are. That was 5. Yeah, I could go on, but I'll stop there for now. I don't think we have enough time to talk about all the female wrestlers that I just absolutely adore.
I wouldn't mind. You mentioned Dr. Britt Baker, and you guys
Mhm.
have that professional line going as well as wrestling, so that definitely can be something. Putting out there in the
For
universe,
sure.
Tony Khan, putting
Yes.
out there.
Look at Tony. I'll go on dark even though it's not on YouTube anymore. Like I'll do whatever you need me to do, Tony. I will be there.
So how, if somebody is watching you for the first time, would you describe your, wrestlers gimmicks or personas are kind of turned up a little bit for entertainment purposes for fans, but how would you describe your wrestling persona and how you kind of decided on like the style of wrestling you wanted to do in your
Mhm.
matches?
So my wrestling persona is honestly directly ripped off from Elle Woods from Legally Blonde. um, she was a big inspiration for me as I was growing up because she was very, a lot of girl power, a lot of you don't have to change yourself to fit into the world that you want to be in. You can make your own way, which was just something that really resonated with me as I was growing up. So I try to be just like Elle Woods. Obviously, I don't have the right hair color, but we take a few creative liberties there. So very bubbly, very excited to be there, very determined and stubborn in terms of my wrestling character persona. And then for my style, I want it to be very convincing in terms of understanding what my body type is and my strengths and weaknesses as an athlete. I decided that I wanted to use things that would be, convincing to an audience that I could actually win the match. So trying to, I mean, I guess this also comes with the persona of, trying to be very, very smart in terms of how I work. So, a lot of my offense is very head and neck focused. My finisher is, it's called the bend and snap. And it's modified Sister Abigail, so get the head aspect in there. A lot of neck breakers, a lot of strikes as well. Another nod to speedball, but things that I could use my whole body for, that I could take someone out easily because I'm generally a smaller wrestler as they go. So I want to be able to look super powerful in the ring, even with my size, so I can convincingly win a match. So that's kind of where I came up with my standard skill set and trying to be consistent with that.
I love that your move is called the Bend Step. I love Legally Blonde. I also appreciated that she was super like bubbly and like the pink. I mean, I don't wear pink clothes. Pink is my favorite color,
Mhm.
and so just to have all of that and still be super smart and ace everything, and I'm like, yes, I
Exactly.
love that. So I love that
Yes,
just so
exactly.
I love that so much. It's such a nice little ode to Reese
Yeah.
Witherspoon.
Yes.
So I'm a firm believer in, life can be very crazy. I feel like COVID really accentuated just how sometimes we take things for granted. And I say like liberties or things you want to do. And so, what are some things you like to do when you just need to decompress, kind of get away from both wrestling and law and just kind of just like recenter yourself?
Yeah. I think, I mean, I do go to the gym, which is still somewhat wrestling related, but in terms of when I get to go to the gym, I just don't think about anything else. My brain shuts off. I just listen to music, and that's my hour for the day of just doing absolutely nothing, decompressing, like you said. I also really enjoy cooking. At the end of the day, I'm not a master chef or anything, but creating recipes, just again, a time where I could just shut my brain off and just focus on the task that's in front of me of like, I'm gonna chop this vegetable, I'm gonna, throw a couple things in here, get a little creative. That's a lot of fun. And I also really like to read. I read a lot of, well, not a lot of biographies. Currently, I'm reading a biography or a memoir, I guess is the better term, of the guitarist of Fall Out Boy, who is my favorite band. And it's been really fascinating to kind of peel back the curtain on the Fall Out Boy creative process that way. So those are probably my big three when I have time to do all those things.
Okay, I like it. I like it. And is there, I guess, something you kind of have as far as like some goals in like the next 5 years or so that you're just like, these are something I need to do as a wrestler? This is just like my adamant, like these are the things I want to kind of check off. So do you have any of those?
Um, so my approach to wrestling is more of like I'm just gonna see where it takes me. I'm gonna keep doing it until it's not fun anymore, whether it be because my body breaks down or because my brain doesn't like it anymore. So that is kind of really my overarching goal, is just to become as good a wrestler as I can be and see how far I can go. But that being said, I do have one specific goal, and that is to wrestle for Mission Pro. Like I've talked about this entire interview, Thunder Rosa is an absolute icon to me. So to be able to wrestle for her company, and especially a company that is an all female company, like that is just so cool to me. So I would love to be able to wrestle for Mission Pro in the next 5 years, and then just like I said, keep having fun, keep seeing where it takes me. Travel to, I'd love to be able to wrestle in another country. That would be another thing I think in the next 5 years to be able to do. Don't really care which country, anywhere. I haven't been anywhere, so Canada would be great, even if it's just north of the border. But yeah, I think those are probably the two main goals that I've had, and other than just making sure that I'm the best wrestler I can be, I'm as healthy as I can be, and still having fun.
Okay, I like that. So we're gonna do a really quick like speed round of questions. And so I'm gonna ask you something, and then you just kind of give me the first answer that pops up in your head.
Okay, I feel like it's as a test.
It's easy.
I'm very competitive, so I have to get it right.
Last song you had on repeat.
There's a song called Falling Slowly. I can't remember who the artist is. It's like I don't even know what kind of style it is, but it's a cute song. Let me look it up because I know it's somewhere on this, like on repeat on Spotify, because I don't know who this artist is, but I want to know. Oh, it's V Wills. That's the song that's the first song that popped in my head. But yeah. Falling Slowly, V Wills.
Okay. Your favorite go-to snack, no matter what?
Probably yogurt. I love the little Chobani like drinkable yogurts because I can just have them in the car, or get a lot of protein in them, and I just like the taste.
Okay, I like it. Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Definitely a morning person. However, I do not like to be spoken to in the morning. So that's my caveat of being a morning person. Like, I like waking up early, but like if you try to speak to me, I'm like, don't. I need 12 million ounces of caffeine before I can even understand a single word that you're saying, let alone respond to it. So maybe that makes me not a morning person, but I also like to go to bed really early, so I don't feel like I'm a night person either.
Balance, all about balance.
Exactly.
Favorite movie of all time?
Favorite movie of all time, which is not Legally Blonde, actually. It is Ocean's 11.
Nice. I like that movie. It's a good movie.
Oh, so good. So good.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, I just had this conversation the other day. I think I would be super strong. Like if I could stay the size I am and just like be super strong so that nobody expects that I'm super strong, that would be really cool, because I always I don't like when people underestimate me, but I like when people underestimate me and I prove them wrong. So I feel like if I was super strong and people just see this, young little girl and they don't think anything of her, and I just, pull a truck off someone, like, how cool would that be? That'd be so cool. But also, obviously, super strength could come in handy. I could carry a lot of groceries in all at once.
So it's good. One trip.
Exactly.
We'll make that one trip easier, rather, because I feel like most of us.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I don't know if the super strength will translate to like the skin on my hands that's gonna rip off if I have to carry all those grocery bags in, but I guess we'll see one day if I ever get super strength.
If you could either go back and change something or have the ability to kind of do something that's going to happen in the future, which one would you rather do?
Oh my gosh. That's such a hard question. I feel like, oh gosh, I would have to go with knowing what's going to happen in the future. Because like I'm a very firm believer in like everything happens for a reason. You know, I got here based on all of the choices I've made in my life. And, you know, at this point, I'm very happy with where I am. So to go back and change anything, I feel like would just, you know, I wouldn't be where I am today. But at the same time, no, like thinking about something that's going to happen in the future. I mean, if it's a good thing, that would be great to know. I'd be very excited. But also just, you know, waiting in anticipation of this thing to happen would be very difficult. But I would take that over trying to change something in the past, because, you know, the past is the past and I'm here now. So why not just enjoy the time we got?
I love that. It's a great answer. So my last question for you is, what would be your advice to somebody who wants to kind of break into wrestling, even at an older age? Because we know some wrestlers start really young. Because you mentioned Billy Stark, and she was wrestling for some time kind of young, and then, you know, like a Thunder Rosa who kind of started a little bit later. So what would be your thoughts to anybody coming in, just asking what should they do?
I mean, as far as what you should do, obviously, you know, research whatever wrestling school you're going to go to. And I think the biggest thing in terms of actually starting and going is just jump right in. You know, I made a lot of excuses for myself and thought like, oh, well, I'll start going to the gym first before I do wrestling training. Or like I said, I'm too old to try this, or I'm never going to make it to the WWE. So why even try? But it doesn't always have to be about being a WWE superstar. It doesn't have to be about being, you know, the most athletic person there. Like I train with, you know, 19-year-old college kids and they run circles around me all the time. And I'm just like, that's cool. You know, we all have our abilities, we all have our strengths in wrestling. And to just think about all of those things that could go wrong or why you shouldn't do things is just it definitely holds you back a lot. And I'm very glad it didn't hold me back from doing all those things, because I've met some of my best friends in wrestling in the last 2 years now. um just because I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna go for it. And if I fail, then at least I can say I tried. So the worst that can happen is you don't like it. Well, I mean, there are worse things that could happen, but we're not going to put those out in the universe. But at least you tried, you went for it, and now you know what it feels like. You wouldn't, you know, you're never left wondering what if. So I think the biggest thing is just start right now.
I love that. Such great advice. So, can you tell the audience where they can find you and what do you have coming up next?
Yes, ma'am. So you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Facebook is just Journey Burke. I'm not sure. Just search my page in the search bar. Twitter is at Journey Burke, JourneyBurke. There's an E at the end. And Instagram is Journey Burke PW, because somebody had already taken Journey Burke. And up next, actually tomorrow, tomorrow is the day that we're doing this. I'll be at Chosen Pro Wrestling at Summer Shock in Hoboken, New Jersey. On the 15th, I will be in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. It's actually a show that Speedball is putting on. Let me get the right name. This is the business side of wrestling that I'm just like, huh? What do you mean I have to promote myself? I don't know what you're talking about. But yes, Pottsville, Pennsylvania at Pilgara Brewing. It'll be the Fightertainment Spectacle. It's a no-ring show. It's going to be nuts. And then, I mean, the rest of June is booked pretty solid as well. The 17th, I will be out in Pittsburgh at Starlight Wrestling. And then the 18th, I will be at BCW in Ridgefield Park. So that will be a very exciting show. It's a tribute to AJ Pan's mother. So if you're in the area, would highly recommend coming out. To close out June, I'll actually be wrestling in North Carolina and then back in Delaware for 1CW on June 25th. So it's going to be a crazy June. So you can find me almost anywhere, but hopefully we'll see you there.
Nice. Love that. You guys, please, if you are in the areas, go check out some of the shows, support Journey, and all of that good stuff. And, Speedball is an amazing wrestler as well. So just throw up in there and be supportive and support your fellow wrestler, or as a fan, just support. And thank you again for coming on. This is a super fun chat. I thank you for taking the time out of your day to come on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun, and I love, supporting female talent in wrestling. We always got to do that, help one another.
Agreed. Okay, guys, I will have all the links in the description. So please go give Journey a follow on social media. And again, go support some shows. If you have some merch or 8x10s, all that good stuff, do that too. Just all the support Journey's way. And I will catch you guys, or rather, we will catch you guys later. Bye, guys.
Thank you.